A billionaire receives an email from a stranger claiming he has a daughter he never knew existed. On Halloween night, he walks into a restaurant and sees a little girl who looks exactly like his own child. The DNA test comes back 99.9% positive. But this isn't a story about money or scandal. It's about what happens when two half-sisters meet, when two strangers become parents together, and when a man who controlled everything realizes some things can't be controlled. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. Adrian Cole didn't believe in accidents anymore. At 32, he had built an empire on predictability. His venture capital firm operated across 4 continents, his portfolio companies valued in the billions, and every decision he made was backed by data, research, and cold calculation. He had learned early that emotion was expensive. Impulse was a luxury he couldn't afford. His penthouse in downtown Manhattan reflected that philosophy. Clean lines, muted colors, everything in its place. The only chaos permitted was the scattered toys in Ivy's room, and even those were organized by type and color every Sunday evening. Ivy was 7 years old, all wild curls and curious eyes, and she was the only unpredictable variable Adrian allowed in his life. She asked questions that had no answers, demanded bedtime stories that went off script, and laughed at jokes he didn't understand. She made him human in ways the boardroom never could. His ex-wife, Vanessa, had left when Ivy was 2. The marriage had been strategic from the start. 2 ambitious people who looked good on paper and miserable in practice. She'd wanted the lifestyle. He'd wanted stability. Neither got what they needed. The divorce was clean, clinical, expensive. Vanessa moved to Los Angeles, sent birthday cards twice a year, and called every other month to ask about Ivy in the tone someone might use to inquire about a distant cousin. Adrian didn't resent her for it. He understood. Some people weren't built for the daily grind of parenthood. He was. It surprised him, too. Every morning started at 5:30. Coffee first, black and strong, while he reviewed overnight reports from his Tokyo and London offices. By 6:15, he'd showered and dressed. At 6:45, he woke Ivy with the same gentle knock, the same quiet, "Good morning, sweetheart." She'd stumble out in mismatched pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes, and they'd have breakfast together. Always. No meetings before 8, no calls before 7:30. Those 90 minutes were sacred. "Dad, why do people say sleep tight?" Ivy asked one October morning, spinning her spoon through her oatmeal. "I don't know." Adrian poured her orange juice, fresh squeezed, no pulp. "Maybe because beds used to have ropes that needed to be tight? That's weird. Most things are weird if you think about them long enough." She considered this, then nodded like he'd shared some profound wisdom. "Like taxes. You're 7. How do you know about taxes?" "Mia's dad complains about them. A lot." Adrian smiled despite himself. Mia was Ivy's best friend from school, a whirlwind of energy and commentary. Well, he's not wrong. The routine continued. School drop-off at 7:50, always with a hug and a reminder to be kind. Office by 8:30. Meetings, calls, negotiations. Lunch at his desk. More meetings. School pickup at 3:15 because he'd restructured his entire schedule around it. Homework together. Dinner at 6. Bath at 7:30. Story at 8. Lights out by 8:30. Predictable. Manageable. Safe. It had been 3 years since he'd been on a date. Not for lack of opportunity. Women approached him at fundraisers, sent messages through mutual connections, made their interest clear. But the thought of introducing someone new into Ivy's life, of disrupting the careful balance they'd built, felt reckless. And Adrian Cole didn't do reckless. Not anymore. The email arrived on a Tuesday in late October. He almost deleted it. The subject line was vague. Meeting request. And the sender was unfamiliar. Mara Quinn. No company affiliation, no context. Probably spam or some clever phishing attempt. But something made him open it. "Mr. Cole, my name is Mara Quinn. We met briefly 6 years ago in Boston after the New Ventures conference. I understand this message may seem unusual, but I need to speak with you about something important. Would you be available to meet for dinner on October 31st at 7 p.m.? There's a small restaurant called Ember on West 23rd Street. Please come alone. Respectfully, Mara Quinn." Adrian read it 3 times. Boston. 6 years ago. He'd been at that conference, one of dozens he attended every year. He'd given a keynote on emerging markets, sat through panels, networked over cocktails. The details were hazy. He met hundreds of people at those events, shook countless hands, exchanged business cards he never looked at again. He didn't remember anyone named Mara Quinn. The tone bothered him. Not aggressive, not desperate, but there was something underneath the formality, something careful. Like she was choosing every word to avoid spooking him. Please come alone. That part was strangest. If this was a business pitch, she'd want witnesses, documentation. If it was personal, she wouldn't use his professional email. If it was a scam, she'd be pushing harder. He should ignore it, delete it, move on. Instead, he replied, "Miss Quinn, I'll be there." Adrian Cole. He told himself it was curiosity, due diligence. You didn't get to his position by leaving questions unanswered. If this woman had some claim or complaint, better to address it directly than let it fester. But late that night, after Ivy was asleep, he sat in his study with a glass of whiskey he didn't drink and stared at the email on his phone. Boston, 6 years ago. Something scratched at the edges of his memory, faint and formless. A hotel bar. A conversation that went longer than intended. A woman with dark hair and tired eyes who listened more than she talked. He couldn't be sure. Memory was unreliable, especially when you didn't want to remember. The days passed. Adrian didn't mention the meeting to anyone. Not his assistant, not his lawyer, not the small circle of people he trusted with logistics. He simply blocked out the evening on his calendar and arranged for Mrs. Chen, Ivy's usual sitter, to stay late. "Hot date?" Mrs. Chen asked when he told her, eyes twinkling with mischief. "Business dinner." "On Halloween?" Apparently. She didn't push, which he appreciated. Mrs. Chen had been with them since Ivy was 3, and she had a gift for knowing when to talk and when to let silence speak. Halloween fell on a Thursday. The city was alive with costumed children and decorative chaos. Ivy wanted to trick-or-treat with Mia's family, which simplified things. Adrian dropped her off at 6, watched her run up the steps in her elaborate fairy costume, wings bouncing with each step. "Pick you up at 9, he called. 9:30, Ivy countered. 9:15. Deal. She disappeared inside without looking back. He stood there for a moment, feeling the familiar pull of worry and pride. She was growing up, every day, a little more independent, a little more herself. He drove to West 23rd Street through traffic that crawled and honked. Ember wasn't a restaurant he knew, which meant it wasn't expensive or trendy. He found it tucked between a dry cleaner and a shuttered bookstore. Small storefront, dim lighting, the kind of place you'd walk past without noticing. Inside was warm and cramped. Maybe 15 tables, half of them occupied. The host was a tired-looking man in his 60s who didn't ask for a name, just gestured toward the back. Adrian saw her immediately. She sat at a corner table, hands folded in her lap, shoulders straight. Mid-30s, maybe. Dark hair pulled back, minimal makeup, clothes that were clean but worn. Not elegant, not trying to be. She looked like someone who worked hard and slept poorly, but it was the girl beside her that stopped him cold. Small, maybe 6 or 7 years old, wearing a black dress and a pointed hat that kept sliding sideways. A witch costume, store-bought and simple. She was coloring on a paper menu with stubby crayons, tongue poking out in concentration, and when she looked up, Adrian's heart stopped. The resemblance was impossible. Not to him, to Ivy. The same wide-set eyes, more green than brown. The same small nose that wrinkled when she concentrated. The same way her hair fell in soft waves that refused to stay behind her ears. He stood frozen in the doorway, aware that people were staring, that the host was waiting, that his chest had tightened in a way that made breathing difficult. Mara stood. Her expression was controlled, but he caught the tremor in her hands before she hid them at her sides. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming." Her voice was steady, rehearsed, maybe, like she'd practiced this moment 100 times. Adrian forced himself to move forward. His training kicked in, the years of high-stakes negotiations, of maintaining composure when everything inside screamed. He shook her hand, sat down across from her and the girl. "This is Lucy," Mara said quietly. Lucy looked up from her coloring. "Hi." His voice came out rougher than intended. "I'm drawing a cat. Want to see?" "Lucy, not right now," Mara said gently, "but it's a really good cat." "Later, sweetheart." The girl returned to her drawing, unbothered. Adrian couldn't stop staring at her, the curve of her cheek, the way she held the crayon, the small gap between her front teeth when she smiled to herself. "I know this must be confusing," Mara began. "That's an understatement." She flinched slightly but didn't look away. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I almost didn't." "But you did. You said it was important." Mara glanced at Lucy, who was fully absorbed in her drawing now, humming something tuneless under her breath. Then she looked back at Adrian, and he saw something in her eyes that he recognized. Fear. Not of him, but of what she was about to do. "6 years ago," she said, voice low enough that Lucy wouldn't hear. "We met in Boston, after the conference. You were at the hotel bar." The memory shifted, came into sharper focus. Yes. A conference, a long day of presentations. He'd gone to the bar because his room felt too empty. She'd been there, sitting alone with a book she wasn't reading. They'd talked about nothing important, about cities and work, and how strange it was to be surrounded by people and still feel alone. She'd been in town for a friend's wedding. He'd been escaping his own thoughts. One conversation became 2 drinks. 2 drinks became 3. She was easy to talk to in a way most people weren't. She didn't want anything from him, didn't recognize his name, didn't perform. He remembered walking her to her room, remembered her inviting him in, quietly, without pretense. He remembered leaving before dawn without waking her. "I remember," he said. Mara nodded. "A few weeks later I found out I was pregnant." The words hung in the air between them. Lucy kept coloring. Somewhere behind them, a waitress laughed at something a customer said. The world kept moving while Adrian stopped. "I tried to find you," Mara continued, "but I only knew your first name. I didn't know about your company, your everything. I was working 2 jobs then, barely keeping my head above water. By the time I figured out who you were, months had passed. You had a wife, a life. I convinced myself it didn't matter, that I could do it alone." "Why now?" His voice was flat, defensive. "Why after 6 years?" Because Lucy started asking questions. Mara's composure cracked slightly. Real questions. About her father. About why she doesn't have one when all her friends do. I tried to deflect, tried to say it was complicated, but she's smart. She knew I was lying. Lucy looked up then, as if sensing she was being discussed. "Mom, can I get the chicken fingers?" "Sure, baby." "With fries?" "With fries." Satisfied, Lucy returned to her drawing. Mara closed her eyes briefly, gathering herself. "I'm not here to ask for anything," she said. "I don't want money. I don't want to disrupt your life. She deserves the truth. And so do you." Adrian looked at Lucy again, really looked at her, the shape of her hands, the way she tilted her head when she concentrated. A dozen small details that added up to something undeniable. "You could be wrong," he said, but even he didn't believe it. "I'm not." "You don't know that." "Look at her, Adrian." He did. And he saw Ivy, saw himself, saw a stranger who was somehow familiar in ways that made his carefully ordered world tilt sideways. "A DNA test," he said. "That's the only way to know for sure." "I agree." "And if it's positive," Mara met his gaze steadily, "then we figure it out. Together." The waitress arrived, breaking the moment. She took their orders with the kind of professional cheer that suggested she either didn't notice the tension or had seen enough drama to be immune to it. Lucy ordered her chicken fingers with great seriousness, specifying that the fries needed to be crispy but not too crispy. After the waitress left, silence settled over the table. Adrian felt like he was watching the scene from outside his own body. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like him. He was careful, controlled. He didn't make mistakes that came back 6 years later in witch costumes and asked for chicken fingers. "Do you have other children?" Mara asked quietly. "A daughter, Ivy. She's 7. Something flickered across Mara's face. Lucy just turned 6 in August. The math was simple, brutal in its clarity. "Does she know?" Adrian asked, nodding toward Lucy. "About why we're here?" "No, I told her we were meeting a friend for dinner. A grown-up friend who might be able to answer some questions." "That's vague enough to be useless." I didn't know what else to say. For the first time, Mara's voice wavered. "I've been trying to figure out the right words for weeks. There aren't any." Lucy looked up again, studying Adrian with the unself-conscious intensity of children. Are you really tall or is everyone else really short? Adrian blinked. I'm tall. Like basketball tall? Not quite. Oh. She considered this. Do you like cats or dogs? I don't have either. Why not? My daughter wants a dog. I keep saying maybe. Maybe means no, Lucy said, with the authority of someone who'd heard it often. That's what my mom says. Lucy, Mara said gently. What? It's true. She returned to her drawing, adding purple spots to her cat. Maybe always means no. Adrian found himself almost smiling despite everything. She's not wrong. She's rarely wrong about anything, Mara said, and there was pride in her voice, tired but genuine. It's exhausting. The food arrived. Lucy attacked her chicken fingers with enthusiasm, narrating her thoughts on crispiness and ketchup distribution. Mara barely touched her salad. Adrian cut his steak into precise pieces and ate mechanically, tasting nothing. What do you do? He asked, needing to fill the silence with something concrete. I'm a nurse, pediatric unit at Roosevelt Hospital. That's hard, she finished. Yeah, but I'm good at it. And the hours work with Lucy's school schedule, mostly. You're raising her alone? I have some help. My neighbor watches her sometimes. There's an after-school program. She pushed lettuce around her plate. We manage. The subtext was clear. They managed because they had to, not because it was easy. Adrian thought of his own resources, the ease with which he solved problems that money could fix. He thought of Mrs. Chen and the private school and the bedroom full of toys that Ivy barely played with. If the test is positive, he said slowly, things will change. I know. I'm not talking about money. I mean, everything. Mara looked at him directly. I know what you mean, and I've thought about it, all of it, but she deserves to know her father and her sister. The word hit him hard. Sister. Ivy had always wanted a sibling. She'd asked for years, especially after her mother left, as if a sister or brother could fill the empty spaces in their small family. This will be complicated, he said. I know. The press might find out. I don't care about the press. You should. They'll make this ugly. They'll dig into your life, my life, create narratives that have nothing to do with reality. Mara's jaw tightened. Then we don't give them a story. We handle this privately, like adults for the sake of the children. You make it sound simple. I didn't say it was simple. I said it was necessary. Lucy finished her fries and pushed her plate away. Mom, I'm done. Can I draw more? Sure, baby. The waitress brought more crayons and fresh paper. Lucy set to work immediately, this time attempting a castle with questionable architectural integrity. Adrian watched her, trying to reconcile what he was seeing with what he knew, or thought he knew, about his own life. 6 years ago, he'd been a different person. Still driven, still ambitious, but lonelier than he wanted to admit. Vanessa had been pulling away even then, though the divorce was still 2 years off. He'd gone to Boston hoping to escape. Just for a weekend, the slow collapse of his marriage. And he'd met Mara. He remembered thinking she seemed sad but didn't want to talk about why. He remembered liking that about her, the way she kept her hurt private. He remembered feeling less alone for a few hours. He remembered leaving without saying goodbye because it was easier than admitting he'd needed the connection. I was married, he said abruptly. When we met. Not happily, but married. I know, I figured that out later. I should have told you. Would it have changed anything? He thought about it. Probably not. Then what's the point of regret? Mara's voice was tired. We made choices. They led here. Now we make different choices. Just like that? No, not just like that. But what's the alternative? Pretend this didn't happen? Walk away and hope Lucy stops asking questions? People do that all the time. I'm not people, Mara said quietly. And I don't think you are either. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. She was right. He could have ignored the email, could have deleted it and moved on with his carefully structured life. But something had pulled him here. Curiosity, guilt, or maybe just the simple human need to know the truth. Lucy held up her castle drawing. Look, I made a tower. It's beautiful, Mara said. Do you like it? Lucy asked Adrian. He studied the crayon mess of walls and windows. I do. Very sturdy design. Lucy beamed. I'm going to live in a castle when I grow up. That's a good plan. Do you live in a castle? More like a tall building. That's almost the same thing, she decided, then went back to adding flags to her towers. The innocence of it gutted him. She had no idea why they were really here, no concept of how her life might be about to change. She was just a kid eating chicken fingers and drawing castles, unaware that two adults were deciding her future over cold coffee and barely touched meals. The test, Adrian said. How do we do this? There's a lab that does paternity testing. Discreet. We can go tomorrow if you want. That fast? I've been planning this for weeks, Mara admitted. I wanted to be ready for whatever you decided. And if I'd said no, then I would have respected that and figured out how to explain it to Lucy when she got older. He believed her. There was nothing manipulative in her tone, nothing calculated. She was just a tired woman trying to do right by her daughter, even when right was complicated and messy and probably impossible. Tomorrow's Friday, he said. I can move some meetings. 11 a.m. The lab is in Midtown. I'll be there. Mara exhaled, tension releasing from her shoulders. Okay, thank you. They finished the meal in relative quiet. Lucy filled the silence with observations about her classmates and complaints about her teacher's obsession with multiplication tables. She was bright, articulate, funny in ways that reminded Adrian painfully of Ivy. When the check came, Adrian reached for it automatically, but Mara stopped him. We split it, she said firmly. That's not… Yes, it is. This isn't a date. This isn't charity. We split it. He saw the steel in her eyes and backed down. They divided the bill exactly in half, cash on her side, card on his. Outside, Halloween was in full swing. Kids swarmed the sidewalks in costumes ranging from elaborate to last minute. Parents trailed behind, managing candy bags and flashlights. The air smelled like fallen leaves and sugar. Lucy pressed her face against the restaurant window, watching with longing. Mom, can we trick or treat? Not tonight, sweetheart. But everyone else is. I know. We'll do something special this weekend instead. That's not the same. I know, Mara said again, and Adrian heard the exhaustion in her voice. I'm sorry. He found himself speaking before thinking. My daughter is out trick-or-treating right now, a few blocks from here. If you wanted to walk that direction, maybe Lucy could join them for a bit. Mara looked at him surprised. You don't have to… I know I don't, but she should get to be a kid tonight. They both should. Something softened in Mara's expression. Okay, if you're sure. They walked west, Lucy skipping ahead, Mara and Adrian trailing behind in awkward silence. The streets were chaos, costumes and laughter and parents calling out reminders to say thank you. Lucy ran from stoop to stoop, her witch hat finally giving up and falling off entirely. She's happy, Mara said quietly. Most of the time. I worry that I'm not enough, that she's missing something important. But she's happy. That's not nothing. No, it's not. She paused. Your daughter, Ivy, is she happy? Adrian thought about it. Yeah, most of the time. She wants things I can't give her. A mother who's present, a sibling, normal things. Money doesn't fix everything. No, he agreed. It really doesn't. They found Mia's group on West 26th Street. Ivy saw Adrian first and came running, fairy wings flapping. Dad, look how much candy I got. Then she noticed Lucy and stopped. Who's that? This is Lucy, Adrian said carefully. She's a friend. Ivy studied Lucy with open curiosity. Lucy studied back. I like your costume, Ivy said finally. Thanks. Yours is pretty. Want to get more candy together? Lucy looked at Mara, who nodded. Stay where I can see you. The two girls ran off, joining the cluster of children hitting the next building. Adrian watched them side by side, their heights nearly identical, their laughter mixing in the cold night air. They look alike, Mia's mother said, appearing at his shoulder. Is that your niece or something? Something like that, Adrian said, because it was easier than the truth. Mara stood a few feet away, arms wrapped around herself, watching Lucy with an expression that was part relief, part grief. Adrian understood. She was seeing what Lucy had been missing, the easy friendship, the casual joy of Halloween, the kind of childhood that didn't require managing and compromise. After 20 minutes, they collected the girls. Lucy's bag was half full, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Thank you," she said to Ivy very seriously. "That was the best trick-or-treating ever." "We should do it again sometime," Ivy said. "Maybe," Ivy laughed. "Maybe means no." "Not always," Lucy said, but she was grinning. Adrian walked Mara and Lucy to their subway stop. The streets were quieter now, the rush of Halloween winding down. "Tomorrow," Mara said, 11 a.m. East 42nd Street. "I'll be there." She hesitated, then said, "Thank you for tonight, for letting her have this. She's a good kid. So is yours." They stood there for a moment, two strangers connected by something that shouldn't exist but did. Then Lucy tugged on Mara's hand, tired and ready to go home, and they disappeared down the subway stairs. Adrian walked back to pick up Ivy, his mind spinning. Tomorrow would bring answers, science, certainty. But standing there in the cold October night, watching the last trick-or-treaters trail home, he already knew the truth. Lucy was his daughter, and everything he'd built, the control, the routine, the careful boundaries, was about to come apart. Adrian didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the city through his penthouse windows. Sirens in the distance, the occasional honk, the white noise of millions of lives happening simultaneously. Ivy was asleep down the hall, exhausted from trick-or-treating, her candy bag sitting on the kitchen counter waiting to be rationed out over the coming weeks. He kept seeing Lucy's face, the gap in her teeth, the way she held her crayon, the absolute certainty in Mara's eyes when she'd said, "Look at her, Adrian." At 4 in the morning, he gave up on sleep and went to his office. The city was still dark, the buildings across from him mostly empty, except for the occasional lit window where someone else couldn't rest. He pulled up his calendar and started moving meetings. His assistant would have questions, but she knew better than to ask. By 6, he'd cleared his entire day. By 6:30, Ivy was awake and padding into the kitchen in her pajamas. "You're up early," she said, climbing onto her usual stool. "Couldn't sleep. Were you thinking about work stuff?" "Something like that." She poured herself cereal with the careful concentration of someone still mastering fine motor skills. "Can Lucy come over sometime?" Adrian's hand froze on the coffee pot. "What?" "Lucy, from last night. She was nice. We both like the same books." "You talked about books?" "While we were getting candy, she's reading the same series as me, but she's only on book 3. I'm on book 5. Ivy said this with the casual superiority of children who'd discovered reading. "I told her she could borrow mine if she wanted." That's nice of you." "So, can she come over?" Adrian poured his coffee, buying time. "Maybe. We'll see." "You always say that when you mean no." "Not always." "Usually." Ivy crunched her cereal thoughtfully. "Is she your friend's daughter?" "Why do you ask?" "Because she looks like me. Mia's mom said so too." Adrian sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted. "Would that be weird, if she looked like you?" Ivy shrugged. "I guess not. Lots of people look like other people. That's why we have faces." The logic was airtight and completely absurd. "That's true. So can she come over?" "Let me talk to her mom first." "Okay." Satisfied, Ivy returned to her cereal. Crisis averted, question answered, life moving forward with the easy resilience of 7-year-olds who hadn't yet learned to worry about things they couldn't control. Adrian wished he could bottle that feeling. The lab was in a nondescript office building on East 42nd Street, the kind of place you'd walk past every day without noticing. Adrian arrived 10 minutes early and waited in the lobby, watching people come and go, messengers, office workers, a woman with a crying baby. Normal people doing normal things while his world tilted sideways. Mara arrived at exactly 11, Lucy in tow. The girl was wearing jeans and a sweater that had been washed too many times, the kind of soft that came from age rather than expense. She saw Adrian and waved. "Hi, we're taking a science test." "Lucy," Mara said quietly. "What?" "That's what you said." "I said we were helping with something scientific." "That's the same thing." Mara looked at Adrian apologetically. "She asks questions." "So does mine." They took the elevator to the 3rd floor in silence. The waiting room was beige and generic, decorated with stock photos of families that were too happy to be real. A receptionist with tired eyes checked them in without much interest. Ms. Quinn, Mr. Cole, the technician will be with you shortly. They sat in plastic chairs that were bolted to the floor. Lucy immediately found a bin of toys in the corner, outdated, slightly grimy, the kind that lived in doctors' offices. She pulled out a puzzle of a farm scene and dumped the pieces on the small table. Want to help? She asked Adrian. I'm not very good at puzzles. That's okay. I'll teach you. So he sat on the floor of a genetic testing lab and helped a 6-year-old put together a puzzle while Mara watched with an expression he couldn't read. Lucy was bossy and efficient, correcting him when he tried to force pieces that didn't fit, praising him when he found the right spot. See, you're getting better, she announced after he successfully placed a cow. Good teacher. I know. The technician called them back before they finished. She was young, professional, completely indifferent to whatever drama had brought them here. She'd probably seen everything. This will just take a moment, she said, snapping on gloves. Who's first? Lucy looked at the swab with suspicion. What's that? It goes in your mouth, just for a second. It doesn't hurt. Why? To collect cells from your cheek. Why? Mara intervened. Remember how we talked about this? We're helping some doctors understand how families work. But I don't want to. I know, sweetheart, but it's important. Lucy's lower lip trembled. For a moment, Adrian thought she might cry, might refuse, might blow this whole thing apart before it even started. Then she looked at Adrian. Did you do it already? Not yet. Are you scared? A little, he admitted. But you're a grown-up. Grown-ups get scared too. She considered this. Okay, but you have to go first. So Adrian went first, opening his mouth while the technician swabbed the inside of his cheek with quick, practiced movements. It took maybe 10 seconds. Lucy watched with the intensity of a scientist observing an experiment. See? Adrian said when it was done. Not bad. Now me, Lucy decided. She was braver than he'd been, sitting perfectly still while the technician worked. When it was over, she turned to Mara with triumph. I did it. You did? I'm proud of you. Can we get ice cream now? After lunch. That's not now. No, it's not. They finished the paperwork in the waiting room while Lucy returned to her puzzle. The technician explained the timeline. Results in 7 to 10 business days, delivered via secure email. Confidential. Legally binding. All the words that made it real. Is there anything else you need? She asked. Adrian looked at Mara, who shook her head. No, thank you. Outside, the November air was cold and sharp. Lucy skipped ahead, seemingly unbothered by what had just happened. Mara walked beside Adrian, hands shoved in her jacket pockets. That went better than I expected, she said. What were you expecting? I don't know. Resistance? Arguments? Maybe you wouldn't show up at all. I said I would be here. People say a lot of things. She wasn't wrong. Adrian thought of all the promises Vanessa had made and broken, all the commitments that had dissolved under pressure. Words were easy. Following through was hard. What happens now? He asked. We wait. For 10 days. Give or take. Lucy stopped ahead of them, crouching to examine something on the sidewalk. A bottle cap, maybe, or a dropped button. Whatever it was held her attention completely. She's happy, Adrian said, more observation than question. Most of the time, she doesn't know what she's missing. Is that a bad thing? Mara watched her daughter with an expression that was equal parts love and exhaustion. I don't know. Sometimes I think ignorance is kinder. Other times I think I'm just making excuses for my own failures. You're not failing. You don't know that. You don't know me. I know you showed up. I know you're trying to do right by her. Trying isn't the same as succeeding. Lucy found whatever she'd been looking for and came running back. Mom, look, a quarter. Very cool. Put it in your pocket. Can I buy something with it? Probably not much. Not even gum? Gum costs more than a quarter now. Lucy looked genuinely offended by this information. That's not fair. A lot of things aren't fair, Mara said gently. That's why we save our quarters. They reached the subway entrance where they'd split up the night before. Lucy was already bouncing down the steps, eager to move, to keep going, to get to whatever came next. Adrian, Mara said, and it was the first time she'd used his first name. Whatever the test says, I'm not trying to take anything from you. I'm not trying to ruin your life. I know. Do you? He thought about it. I'm starting to. She nodded, then followed Lucy down into the station. Adrian stood there for a long moment, watching the space where they disappeared before turning back toward his office. The days that followed were strange. Adrian went through the motions of his life, meetings, calls, negotiations, but his mind was elsewhere. He caught himself staring at Ivy during breakfast, looking for traces of Lucy in her features. The nose, the eyes, the way she argued her point even when she was clearly wrong. "Dad, you're being weird," Ivy said on day 3. "Am I? You keep staring at me." "I'm just thinking." "About what?" "About how fast you're growing up." She rolled her eyes with the exasperation of a child who'd heard this before. "You say that every week." "Because it's true every week." On day 5, Mara texted him. It was the first contact since the lab. "How are you holding up?" He stared at the message for a full minute before responding. "Fine. You?" "Lying awake at night wondering if I made a huge mistake. Little late for that, I know. Doesn't stop me from wondering." He put the phone down, then picked it up again. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Ask me again in a week, on day 7, Adrian told his lawyer. Marcus had been with him for a decade, had handled the divorce, had seen Adrian at his worst. He listened to the whole story without interrupting, his expression carefully neutral. "You need to prepare for multiple scenarios," Marcus said when Adrian finished. "If the test is positive, there are custody considerations, financial obligations, potential media exposure. I know all that. Do you? Because this isn't like your divorce. You can't negotiate your way out of biology." "I'm not trying to negotiate my way out of anything." "Then what are you trying to do?" Adrian didn't have an answer. "Look," Marcus said, softening slightly, "I've known you a long time. You're good at solving problems. But this isn't a problem to solve. It's a situation to navigate. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Problems have solutions. Situations just have consequences." On day 9, Adrian took Ivy to the park. It was Saturday, unseasonably warm for November. She wanted to try the monkey bars, which she'd been too scared to attempt the week before. He spotted her while she swung from bar to bar, ready to catch her if she fell. "I'm doing it," she yelled. "You are. Don't let go." "I'm right here." She made it to the end and dropped down, face flushed with triumph. "Did you see?" "I saw. That was brave." "Can Lucy come play here sometime?" The question caught him off guard. "Maybe." "You keep saying maybe." "Because I don't know yet." "When will you know?" "Soon." Ivy accepted this and ran off to the swings. Adrian pulled out his phone and texted Mara without thinking it through. "Ivy keeps asking about Lucy." The response came quickly. "Lucy keeps asking about Ivy." "What do we tell them?" "I don't know." "The truth?" "Which part of it?" "The part where they liked each other." Adrian looked up at Ivy, pumping her legs on the swing, hair flying behind her. He thought about Lucy in her worn sweater, helping him with that puzzle, correcting his mistakes with the confidence of someone who knew she was right. "When the results come in, maybe we should talk. In person." "I think so too, just us. Before we tell the girls anything." "Agreed." On day 10, Adrian was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Finally, he excused himself and stepped into the hallway. 3 messages from Mara. "Results are in. I can't open them. Can you?" His hands were shaking. He logged into the portal, entered his credentials, navigated through 3 security screens. The document loaded slowly, deliberately, like the universe was giving him one last chance to back out. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. He read it twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. He called Mara. She answered on the first ring. "Well?" Her voice was tight. 99.9%. Silence. Then a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "Okay? Okay? I mean, I knew, but knowing and knowing are different things." "Yeah." "Are you okay?" Adrian leaned against the wall, watching his colleagues through the glass conference room door. They were still talking, still gesturing, still existing in a world where his biggest problem was a quarterly report. I don't know it, he said honestly. Me neither. We should meet, like we talked about. When? Tonight? Tomorrow? Tomorrow, Sunday. Lucy has a play date and I can get a sitter. Noon? Same restaurant? Too public. Come to my place. I'll text you the address. She hung up before he could respond. Adrian stood in the hallway for another minute, then went back into the meeting. Someone asked him a question about projected growth. He answered automatically, his brain split between the conversation in the room and the one that had just ended. When the meeting finally wrapped, he went back to his office and stared at the skyline. The sun was setting, painting the buildings gold and orange. Beautiful and indifferent. The city didn't care that his life had just been rewritten. That night he told Ivy he had a work thing the next day. On Sunday? She asked. Sometimes work doesn't care about weekends. That's dumb. You're not wrong. Can I go to Mia's house? If her parents say it's okay. They will. Mia's dad likes me because I'm polite. You are very polite. I know. She paused, studying him. Are you okay, Dad? Why do you ask? You seem sad. He pulled her into a hug, breathing in the smell of her shampoo. I'm not sad, just thinking about some big stuff. What stuff? Grown-up stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. Okay. She hugged him back, small arms tight around his waist. But if you get too sad, you can tell me. I'm a good listener. I know you are. Sunday morning came too fast. Adrian dropped Ivy at Mia's house, endured the knowing looks from Mia's mother who clearly thought he had a date, and drove to the address Mara had sent. It was in Queens. A brick building with a laundromat on the ground floor, a bodega on the corner. The kind of neighborhood where people actually knew their neighbors, where kids played on the sidewalk and old men sat on stoops arguing about baseball. He found Mara's apartment on the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled like cooking and old carpet. He knocked, and she answered immediately, like she'd been waiting by the door. Hi. Hi. She let him in. The apartment was small, maybe 800 square feet if he was generous. Living room, kitchen, one bedroom visible through a half-open door. But it was clean, organized, filled with evidence of Lucy's presence, drawings on the fridge, books stacked on the coffee table. A child's jacket hung neatly by the door. Coffee? Mara asked. Please. She moved around the tiny kitchen with the efficiency of someone who'd learned to make the most of limited space. Adrian sat on the couch, feeling enormous and out of place. Through the window, he could see a slice of sky and the building across the street. Lucy's with my neighbor, Mara said, handing him a mug. The one who watches her sometimes. I told her I had an important meeting. Not entirely a lie. No. She sat in the chair across from him, curling her legs under her. So, 99.9%. Yeah. They sat with it for a moment. The truth, undeniable and terrifying. I've been thinking, Mara said slowly, about how this works, the logistics. Me too. I don't want your money, Adrian. I need you to understand that. I'm not looking for child support or... Stop. He set down his coffee. You're entitled to it, legally, ethically. I have a daughter I didn't know about. That's on me. You didn't know. That doesn't matter. She's mine. That comes with responsibilities. Mara's jaw tightened. I've been taking care of her just fine. I'm not saying you haven't, but she deserves more than just fine. She deserves everything I can give her. Money doesn't fix everything. No, but it solves a lot of problems. Better school, better health care, a college fund, things you shouldn't have to struggle for. I'm not struggling. He looked around the apartment, at the peeling paint by the window, the radiator that probably clanked at night, the furniture that was clean but worn. Mara, don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't come in here and judge my life. I'm not judging. Yes, you are. You're sitting there thinking about everything we don't have, everything Lucy's missing. But you know what she has? A mother who's present, who knows her teachers' names and her favorite foods and what makes her scared at night. Can you say the same about your daughter? The words hit hard because they were true. That's not fair. None of this is fair, but we're here anyway. They stared at each other, the air thick with things unsaid. Finally, Mara sighed. I'm sorry. That was cruel. It was honest. Same thing sometimes. She rubbed her face. I'm scared, okay? I'm terrified that you're going to come in with your money and your lawyers and take her from me. I would never. You say that now. But what happens when you decide I'm not good enough? When you think she'd be better off in your world? That's not how this works, isn't it? You have resources I can't compete with. You could bury me in legal fees before I even got started. Adrian leaned forward. Listen to me. I'm not trying to take Lucy from you. I'm trying to figure out how to be her father without destroying what you've built. And if those things are incompatible, then we figure it out. Together. Mara looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Honesty, maybe, or just the absence of lies. Okay, she said finally. Together. They spent the next 2 hours talking through scenarios, custody arrangements, financial support, how to tell the girls, when to introduce extended family. Every question led to 3 more, every answer revealing new complications. What about school? Mara asked. Lucy's in public school in Queens. Ivy's in, what, some fancy private place in Manhattan? Whitmore Academy. Right, so what happens when Lucy asks why she can't go there too? Then she goes there. Just like that? Why not? Because it's not her world, Adrian. She'd be the scholarship kid, the one who doesn't belong. Or she'd be my daughter getting the education she deserves. Those aren't the same thing. They could be. Mara shook her head. You don't get it. You live in this bubble where problems get solved with phone calls and checkbooks. The rest of us don't have that option. So teach me. Tell me what I'm missing. I can't teach you empathy. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to trust that I'm trying. She looked away, out the window at the gray November sky. Trust is hard when the stakes are this high. I know. His phone buzzed. A text from Mia's mom saying Ivy was asking when he'd pick her up. Reality, demanding attention. I should go, Adrian said. Yeah. He stood, then hesitated. We need to tell them soon, the girls. I know. Not today, but soon. Agreed. At the door, he turned back. For what it's worth, I think you've done an incredible job with Lucy. She's smart and kind and brave. That's all you. Mara's eyes went bright. She blinked hard, fighting it. Thank you. I mean it. I know. He left before the moment could get heavier. Down the 3 flights of stairs past the bodega back to his car. His phone rang as he reached it. Marcus, his lawyer. We need to talk about next steps, Marcus said without preamble. Not now. Adrian, you can't just... I said not now. He hung up. Sat in his car watching people move through their lives. A couple arguing in Spanish. A kid on a skateboard. An old woman pulling a shopping cart. All of them dealing with their own complications, their own impossible situations. He picked up Ivy, who talked nonstop about her playdate on the drive home. Something about a fort and a disagreement about whether dragons could be purple. He made appropriate sounds, nodded at the right moments, but his mind was elsewhere. That night, after Ivy was in bed, he poured himself a drink and opened his laptop. He searched for Lucy's school, found their website. PS 127. Decent test scores, overcrowded classrooms, a playground that had seen better days. Then he looked up Whitmore Academy. Pristine campus, small class sizes, tuition that cost more than most people's yearly salary. 2 different worlds. His daughters living parallel lives that shouldn't intersect but did. He thought about what Mara had said, about trust and stakes and bubbles. He thought about Ivy's question in the park. When will you know? The answer was simple and terrifying. He'd never know. Not fully. This wasn't a business deal with terms and conditions. This was family, messy and complicated and completely out of his control. His phone lit up. A text from Mara. Lucy drew a picture of Ivy today. She put it on her wall. Adrian stared at it, something tight in his chest. Ivy's been asking when she can see Lucy again. Soon? Yeah, soon. He closed the laptop and went to Ivy's room. She was asleep, covers kicked off as usual, one arm hanging off the bed. He pulled the blanket over her, smoothed her hair back from her face. You're going to have a sister, he whispered. I don't know how this works yet. but you're going to have a sister. She shifted in her sleep, but didn't wake. Adrian stood there for a long moment, watching her breathe, trying to memorize this version of their life before it changed forever. Because it was going to change. The test results made it inevitable. But standing there in the dark, listening to his daughter's soft breathing, Adrian realized something. He wasn't trying to control this anymore. He was just trying not to break it. That would have to be enough. They chose the park. Neutral ground, Mara had called it. Somewhere the girls could run around if things got awkward. Somewhere public enough that emotions wouldn't spiral out of control. Adrian had suggested meeting at his place, but Mara had shot that down immediately. Not yet, she'd said. Let's not overwhelm them. So here he was on a Saturday morning in mid-November, watching Ivy chase pigeons near the fountain while he waited for Mara and Lucy to arrive. The air was cold enough that his breath came out in clouds, but the sun was bright, making everything look sharper than it should. "Dad, why are we here so early?" Ivy asked, jogging back to him. "The playground's not even crowded yet." "We're meeting Lucy, remember?" Her whole face lit up. "Really? You didn't say maybe this time?" "No, I didn't. Is her mom coming too?" "Yes." "What's her mom's name again?" "Mara." Ivy tested the word. "Mara. That's pretty. Is she nice?" "She is." "Good, because if she wasn't nice to Lucy, I'd be mad." Adrian almost smiled. "That's fair." He saw them before Ivy did. Mara and Lucy coming through the park entrance. Lucy in a purple jacket that was slightly too big for her. Mara carrying a canvas bag over her shoulder. Lucy spotted Ivy first and started running. "Ivy!" Ivy turned and ran to meet her. They collided in a hug that was enthusiastic and slightly off balance, both of them talking at once about books and school and something about a dog one of them had seen. Adrian watched them, feeling something shift in his chest. Mara reached him, slightly out of breath. "Sorry we're late. Lucy couldn't decide which books to bring." "How many did she bring?" 4. She wants to show Ivy her favorites." "Ivy brought 3. They stood there, two parents watching their daughters reconnect like they'd known each other for years instead of having met once on Halloween. The ease of it was almost painful. "Are you ready for this?" Mara asked quietly. "No. You?" "Not even a little bit." Ivy and Lucy had moved to the swings, taking turns pushing each other higher. Their laughter carried across the playground, bright and uncomplicated. "How do we do this?" Adrian asked. "I thought we'd let them play for a bit, get comfortable, then maybe sit them down together and just tell them." "Just tell them." "You have a better idea?" "No." He watched Lucy pump her legs, hair flying. "I keep trying to script it in my head, find the right words, but there aren't any." "No," Mara agreed. "There really aren't." They walked closer to the playground, found a bench with a clear view of the swings. Other parents were scattered around, most of them absorbed in their phones or their coffee or their own thoughts. Normal Saturday morning at the park. Except nothing about this was normal. "Lucy's been asking questions," Mara said, "about her dad, more than usual." "What does she ask?" "Everything. What he looks like, what he does, why he's not around. I've been trying to be honest without telling her everything, but she's smart. She knows I'm holding back." "What have you told her?" "That he's a good person who didn't know about her. That sometimes adults make choices that are complicated. That she's loved, even if her family looks different from other families." Adrian thought about his own conversations with Ivy, the careful way he'd talked about Vanessa over the years, how he'd tried to make her mother's absence make sense without making Ivy feel abandoned. "Ivy asked me last night if Lucy was her cousin," he said. "What did you say?" "I said we'd talk about it today." Mara looked at him. "Did she seem worried?" "No, curious. She likes Lucy. That's all that matters to her right now." "That's going to change." "I know." They sat in silence for a while, watching the girls move from the swings to the climbing structure. Lucy was more cautious than Ivy, testing each handhold before committing. Ivy just launched herself up without thinking, trusting that she'd figure it out. "They're different," Mara observed. "Yeah. But the same, too. The way they tilt their heads when they're thinking about something. That's you." Adrian hadn't noticed. He looked closer and saw it. Both girls pausing mid-climb, heads angled the same way, considering their next move. Something genetic, something passed down without intention. "Lucy has your stubborn streak," he said. "How would you know?" I saw it at the lab. When she didn't want to do the test and then decided she would, she made the choice on her terms. Mara smiled slightly. Yeah, she gets that from me. For better or worse. 20 minutes passed. 30. The girls invented some complicated game that involved running in circles and shouting random words. Adrian couldn't follow the logic, but they were completely absorbed. We should probably do this before I lose my nerve, Mara said. Okay. Okay. Neither of them moved. Finally, Mara stood. Lucy! Ivy! Come here for a minute. The girls ran over, flushed and breathless. Are we leaving already? Ivy asked, disappointed. No, we just need to talk to you about something. About what? Sit down first. They sat on the bench, squished together, legs swinging. Adrian's hands felt awkward. He shoved them in his pockets, then took them out again. Mara looked at him. He nodded. So, Mara started, you know how families can look different, right? Some kids have a mom and a dad. Some have two moms or two dads. Some live with grandparents or aunts or uncles. We learned about that in school, Ivy said. All families are valid. Exactly. Well, sometimes families are more complicated than we realize at first. Lucy was watching her mother with that intense focus children get when they sense something important is happening. What do you mean? Mara took a breath. Adrian watched her hands grip her knees. Lucy, remember how you've been asking about your dad? About who he is? Yeah. Well, he's here, right now. Lucy looked around the park, confused. Where? Mara pointed at Adrian. Right there. The silence that followed was absolute. Lucy stared at Adrian. Ivy stared at Lucy. Adrian felt like he was watching the scene from underwater, everything moving too slow and too fast at once. Him? Lucy said finally. Yes. But he's Ivy's dad. He is, and he's your dad too. Lucy's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, something that might have been hope. But that means you're sisters, Mara finished gently. Half-sisters. You have the same dad. Ivy gasped, actually gasped, like someone in a movie. Really? Really, Adrian said, finding his voice. But how? When? Why didn't anyone tell us? I didn't know, Adrian said. Your dad? I didn't know Lucy existed until a few weeks ago. Her mom and I met a long time ago before you were born, and then we didn't see each other again. I had no idea. Ivy's eyes were huge. So when we met on Halloween, we didn't know yet, Mara said. We suspected, but we weren't sure. That's why you looked alike, Ivy said to Lucy. Everyone said you looked like me, and I thought it was just a coincidence, but it wasn't. Lucy hadn't said anything. She was still staring at Adrian, her expression unreadable. Lucy? Mara prompted gently. Are you okay? I don't know. Her voice was small. Is this real? It's real, sweetheart. So I have a dad now? You always had a dad. You just didn't know him yet. Lucy looked at Ivy, then back at Adrian. And a sister? Yeah, Ivy said. Me. A real sister? Not pretend? Real. Lucy processed this. Her face was doing something complicated, emotions cycling through faster than Adrian could track. Then, without warning, she burst into tears. Mara pulled her close. Oh, baby, it's okay. I'm not sad, Lucy sobbed. I'm not. I wished for this. I wished so many times, and I thought it would never happen, and now it's real, and I don't know what to do. Adrian felt his own throat tighten. He'd prepared for anger, for rejection, for 1,000 different reactions. But not this. Not raw, overwhelming relief. Ivy scooted closer and grabbed Lucy's hand. It's okay to cry. I cry when I'm happy, too, sometimes. You do? Yeah, like when Dad got me the bike I wanted. I cried for like 10 minutes. That's different. Not really. Lucy wiped her face with her sleeve, trying to collect herself. This is so weird. Super weird, Ivy agreed. But good weird, right? I think so. I don't know yet. Adrian crouched down in front of them. Lucy, I know this is a lot, and I know we don't know each other yet, but I want to, if that's okay with you. She looked at him with those eyes that were painfully familiar. Do I have to call you Dad? You can call me whatever you're comfortable with. What does Ivy call you? Dad. But that's because I've been her dad her whole life. You can call me Adrian if you want, or Mr. Cole, or something else entirely, whatever feels right. Lucy considered this. Can I think about it? Of course. Okay. She turned to Ivy. So we're really sisters? Apparently. Do you want to be sisters? Ivy didn't hesitate. Yeah. Do you? I think so, but I've never had a sister before. I don't know how it works. Me neither. We can figure it out. Something in Lucy's posture relaxed slightly. Can I still borrow your books? Only if you're careful with them. I'm always careful. Okay then. Just like that, some invisible line was crossed. The girls started talking about books again, about which ones Lucy should read next, about whether the main character in Book 5 was annoying or just misunderstood. The crisis passed as quickly as it had come, childhood resilience kicking in. Mara and Adrian moved to another bench a few feet away, giving the girls space but staying close enough to intervene if needed. That went better than I expected, Mara said quietly. What were you expecting? Screaming, running away, complete meltdown? Still time for that. Don't jinx it. They watched the girls for a while. Ivy was explaining something with dramatic hand gestures. Lucy was listening intently, nodding at the right moments. Lucy's going to have questions, Mara said. Lots of them. About why you weren't there, about what happens now, about whether you're going to leave again. I'm not going anywhere. I know that. She doesn't. Not yet. So how do I prove it? You show up, consistently. You become someone she can count on. That's going to take time. Yes, Mara said. It is. Adrian thought about his calendar, already packed with meetings and obligations and trips he'd committed to months ago. He thought about restructuring everything, again, to make room for this new reality. I want to be part of her life, he said. Really part of it. Not just birthdays and holidays. What does that look like to you? I don't know. Regular visits? Maybe one weekend day every week? Dinners sometimes? That's a lot. Is it too much? Mara shook her head. No, I just wasn't expecting you to want that much involvement. Why not? Because most men in your position would write a check and disappear. Easier that way, less complicated. I'm not most men. I'm starting to see that. Ivy called over to them. Can we go to the pond? Lucy's never fed the ducks. You can't feed the ducks, Adrian called back. It's bad for them. But everyone does it. Doesn't make it right. Can we at least look at them? Adrian looked at Mara, who shrugged. Sure. Stay where we can see you. The girls took off toward the pond, not quite running, but close. Adrian and Mara followed at a distance, keeping them in sight. She's never been to this park? Adrian asked. There's one closer to our apartment. We usually go there. Is it nice? It's fine. Smaller. Fewer ducks. She glanced at him. Not everyone has Central Park in their backyard. That's not what I meant. I know. Sorry, I'm defensive about stuff like that. You don't have to be, not with me. Hard habit to break. They reached the pond. The girls were at the edge, pointing at ducks and having some debate about which one was the prettiest. A jogger passed them. A couple walked by, holding hands. I've been thinking about logistics, Adrian said, about how to make this work without disrupting Lucy's life too much. Okay, what if I hired someone to help? A driver who could pick her up for visits, bring her back. That way you wouldn't have to deal with subway transfers and... No. Mara's voice was firm. I appreciate the thought, but no. I'm not putting my 6-year-old in a car with a stranger, no matter how well vetted. And I'm not teaching her that her life needs fixing. I wasn't trying to suggest, yes, you were. You were looking at our situation and seeing problems to solve. But Lucy's life isn't a problem. We're doing fine. I know you are. But things are going to change now. She'll be going back and forth between 2 homes, 2 different lifestyles. I'm just trying to make that easier. By throwing money at it. By using the resources I have, yes. They'd raised their voices slightly. The girls looked over, curious. Adrian forced himself to take a breath. Can we not do this here? He said quietly. Mara's jaw was tight, but she nodded. Fine. They stood in tense silence, watching the girls watch the ducks. Adrian felt the familiar frustration of good intentions being misunderstood, of trying to help and being pushed away. But he also understood where Mara was coming from. She'd built a life without him, had managed everything on her own for 6 years. Having him swoop in with solutions probably felt like judgment. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I'm not trying to fix your life. I'm trying to figure out mine." Mara's shoulders dropped slightly. "I know. I'm sorry too. This is just hard." "Yeah. We're going to disagree about stuff. About money and schools and parenting choices." "Probably. We need to figure out how to do that without Lucy getting caught in the middle." "Agreed." A duck quacked loudly, and Lucy jumped back from the edge, then laughed at herself. Ivy was already teasing her about being scared. "They're going to be okay," Mara said, more to herself than to him. "Kids are resilient. So are adults, sometimes." Sometimes. They stayed at the park for another hour. The girls played, talked, argued briefly about the best way to climb a tree before deciding it was too cold anyway. Normal kid stuff, like they'd been sisters their whole lives instead of finding out 20 minutes ago. Eventually, Lucy started shivering, and Mara declared it was time to go. The girls protested, but without much conviction. They were tired, the kind of good tired that came from running around all morning. "Can Lucy come over to our place sometime?" Ivy asked as they walked toward the park exit. Adrian looked at Mara. "If that's okay with her mom." "Can I, Mom?" "We'll figure something out," Mara said carefully. "That means maybe," Lucy said to Ivy. "Maybe means no." "Not always." They split up at the subway entrance. Ivy hugged Lucy goodbye, quick and unself-conscious. Lucy hugged back, less confident but genuine. "See you soon?" Ivy said. "Yeah, soon." Adrian watched them disappear down the stairs. Mara's hand on Lucy's shoulder, Lucy looking back once before they vanished into the crowd. "That was weird," Ivy said. "Yeah. But good." "You think so?" "I have a sister, Dad. Of course it's good." She paused. "Are you happy about it?" The question caught him off guard. Was he happy? It was too complicated for such a simple word. Overwhelmed, yes. Uncertain, definitely. But standing there with Ivy looking up at him, waiting for his answer, he realized something. "Yeah," he said. "I am." "Good. Because it would be sad if you weren't." They went home. Ivy chattered the whole way, processing out loud the way she did when something big happened. She had questions, dozens of them. Some he could answer, and some he couldn't. "Does this mean I have to share my room?" "No. Lucy has her own home." "But if she visits?" "We'll figure it out." "Can we get bunk beds?" "Let's slow down." "What about Christmas? Does she celebrate Christmas? Because if she does, we should get her presents. I'm sure she'd like that." "What if she doesn't like the same things as me?" "Then you learn about what she likes." "What if we fight?" "Then you work it out. That's what siblings do." Ivy absorbed this. "Mia fights with her brother all the time." "See? Normal." "I've never fought with anyone before." "I'm sure you'll figure it out." That night, after Ivy was asleep, Adrian sat in his office and stared at his phone. He wanted to text Mara, to check in, to see how Lucy was processing everything, but he didn't know what to say. They'd barely held it together at the park. Every conversation seemed to end in disagreement or misunderstanding. His phone buzzed. A text from Mara. "Lucy asked if you were nice." "What did you tell her?" "That I think so. But she should decide for herself." "That's fair." "She wants to know if you like to read." "I do." "Why?" "She says she can only trust people who read." Adrian smiled despite himself. "Smart kid. She gets it from me." "I don't doubt it." A pause, then another message. "Thank you. For today. For showing up. I said I would. I know. But still. Thank you." He set the phone down, something settling in his chest. It wasn't resolution. It wasn't even clarity. But it was something. Over the next week, they texted sporadically, small things. Lucy had questions. Ivy wanted to know if Lucy liked pizza. Logistics about when they could see each other again. The conversations were careful, like they were both learning a new language. Adrian told Marcus about the DNA results. His lawyer had opinions, lots of them, about custody agreements and financial arrangements and protecting Adrian's interests. Adrian listened, nodded, and ignored most of it. You need to think about this strategically, Marcus said. I'm thinking about what's best for Lucy. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes they are. He told his parents over dinner at their place in Connecticut. His mother cried. His father asked practical questions about dates and timelines and how they discovered the connection. His mother cried some more. Another granddaughter, she kept saying. I can't believe it. Believe it. When can we meet her? Soon. We're taking it slow. Don't take it too slow. She's family. Adrian thought about Mara's apartment, about the gap between his world and Lucy's. It's complicated, Mom. Family usually is. He didn't tell Vanessa. She'd find out eventually, but he wasn't ready for that conversation yet. She'd have opinions, questions, probably concerns about how this affected Ivy. All valid, but exhausting to contemplate. 2 weeks after telling the girls, Adrian picked up Lucy for the first time. Just for a few hours. A trial run. Mara met him at a coffee shop halfway between their neighborhoods. Lucy in tow. You have my number, Mara told Lucy. If anything feels wrong or you want to come home, you call me. Mom, I'm fine. I'm just saying. I know, but I'm fine. Lucy climbed into Adrian's car with the cautious confidence of a kid trying to be braver than she felt. She buckled herself in, checked it twice. Ready? Adrian asked. Yeah. They drove to his place in silence. Lucy pressed her face against the window, watching the city change as they headed toward his building. When they pulled up, the doorman greeted Adrian by name and held the door. Lucy's eyes went wide. You have a doorman? The building does. That's so fancy. It's just a person who opens doors. Still fancy. The elevator ride up felt eternal. Lucy stood close to the wall, watching the numbers climb. When they reached his floor, she followed him down the hall with visible nervousness. Ivy opened the door before Adrian could get his key out. Lucy, you're here. Hi. Come see my room. I cleaned it and everything. Lucy looked at Adrian for permission. He nodded. The girls disappeared down the hall, voices already blending together. Adrian stood in his own entryway, listening to them, feeling like a stranger in his own home. Everything looked different with Lucy here. The expensive furniture, the art on the walls, the view of Central Park, it all felt excessive, defensive, like evidence of some crime he hadn't meant to commit. He found them in Ivy's room. Lucy was standing in the middle, turning slowly, taking it all in. The shelves of books, the organized toys, the canopy bed that Ivy had begged for last year. This is your room? Lucy said. Yeah, do you like it? It's really big, I guess. I don't have anything to compare it to. Ivy pulled a book off the shelf. Here, this is the one I was telling you about. You can borrow it. Lucy took it carefully, like it might break. Are you sure? Yeah, just don't lose it. I won't. They spent the afternoon reading, playing a board game that Ivy won, and watching a movie on the couch. Lucy was quieter than she'd been at the park, more contained. Adrian caught her looking around sometimes, cataloging details. He made them grilled cheese for lunch. Lucy ate hers slowly, methodically. Is it okay? He asked. It's good. You use different cheese than my mom. Better or worse? Just different. After the movie, Ivy wanted to show Lucy the building's rooftop terrace. Adrian took them up, watched them lean against the railing and look out at the city. The November wind was sharp up here, making their hair fly. You can see everything, Lucy said. Almost everything, Ivy agreed. Look, there's the park. And that's where Dad's office is. Lucy looked where Ivy was pointing, processing this new geography. Do you come up here a lot? Sometimes. When I want to think. About what? Just stuff, school, friends, whatever. Ivy glanced at Adrian, then back at Lucy. Sometimes about my mom. She doesn't live here anymore. Mine never had a dad here. Until now. Is that weird? Super weird. Yeah. They stood in companionable silence for a moment. Adrian stayed back, giving them space, feeling like an intruder on whatever was happening between them. When it was time to take Lucy home, she gathered her things slowly. At the door, she turned to Ivy. Thanks for sharing your stuff. That's what sisters do, right? I guess so. They hugged briefly. Then Lucy looked at Adrian. Can I come back? Whenever you want. Okay. She paused. This was nice. Yeah? Yeah. He drove her back to Queens, navigation app guiding him through neighborhoods he rarely visited. Lucy was quiet, staring out the window, processing. You okay? He asked. Yeah, just thinking. About what? About how different everything is. Your place and our place. Different doesn't mean better. I know, but it is different. Does that bother you? She thought about it. I don't know yet. Maybe. Sometimes people at school talk about kids who have a lot of money, and they make it sound like those kids are spoiled or mean, but Ivy's not mean. No, she's not. And you seem nice, even though you're rich. Even though, Adrian agreed. But it's still weird. Yeah, it is. Mara was waiting outside her building when they pulled up. She opened the door before Lucy even unbuckled. How was it? Good, Lucy said. Ivy let me borrow a book. That's nice. And we watched a movie and went on the roof. Sounds like fun. Lucy hugged her mom, sudden and tight. Mara's expression shifted, surprise and relief mixing together. I missed you, Lucy said. I missed you too, baby. Adrian watched them, feeling like he was intruding again. She was great. No problems. Good, thank you. Mara looked at Lucy. Go inside. I'll be up in a minute. Lucy grabbed her book and disappeared into the building. Mara turned back to Adrian. Really? How was it? Really good. She's easy, smart, funny. Did she seem okay? Not too overwhelmed? A little overwhelmed, maybe, but okay. Mara nodded, some tension releasing. Okay. We can do this again. Soon. She'd like that. So would Ivy. They stood there in the November cold, two people still figuring out how to talk to each other. This is going to work, Adrian said, surprising himself. I don't know how exactly, but it's going to work. Mara looked at him for a long moment. I hope you're right. Me too. She went inside. Adrian sat in his car, engine running, heat blasting. He thought about Lucy's face when she'd seen Ivy's room, the careful way she'd touched the borrowed book, the relief in her voice when she'd hugged her mother. Different worlds. Same blood. No easy answers, but maybe, eventually, enough love to bridge the gap. He put the car in drive and headed home, carrying that thought like a promise he wasn't sure he could keep, but was determined to try. The first real fight happened 3 weeks later, over something stupidly small. Adrian had picked up Lucy for their Saturday together, and when they got back to his place, Ivy immediately wanted to show her sister the new video game she'd gotten. Lucy had shrugged and said sure, but after 20 minutes of watching Ivy play, she'd asked if they could do something else. After this level, Ivy said, eyes glued to the screen. You said that 2 levels ago. This one's almost done. You're not even playing together, I'm just sitting here. So, you can watch. Watching is boring. Ivy paused the game and turned around. Well, what do you want to do? I don't know, something we can both do. We can take turns. You've been playing for half an hour, that's not taking turns. I'm showing you how it works first. I don't care how it works. I don't even like this game. Ivy's face flushed. You haven't even tried it. Because you won't let me. Their voices were rising. Adrian, who'd been in the kitchen making lunch, walked into the living room to find them glaring at each other. Hey, what's going on? Lucy's being annoying, Ivy said. I'm not being annoying, you're being selfish. I'm not selfish. I'm just trying to show you something cool and you don't even appreciate it. Because you're not actually showing me, you're just playing by yourself. Girls, stay out of it, Dad. Adrian held up his hands. Okay, but maybe lower your voices. She started it, Ivy muttered. I did not. You're the one who won't share. It's my game. So, you said we could play together. Adrian watched them go back and forth, feeling completely out of his depth. He'd read books about sibling rivalry, had asked his mother how she'd handled it when he and his sister fought as kids. None of it seemed helpful now. Why don't we all take a break, he suggested. Lunch is almost ready. I'm not hungry, Ivy said. Me neither, Lucy added. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, arms crossed, pointedly not looking at each other. Adrian went back to the kitchen and texted Mara. The girls are fighting. About what? A video game. Ivy won't share. Lucy's being stubborn. Sounds about right. Let them work it out. They're both really mad. They'll survive. Adrian put the phone down and finished making sandwiches that no one would eat. When he brought them into the living room, the girls were still in their standoff positions. I made lunch. Silence. Turkey and cheese, your favorite, Ivy, and I got that bread Lucy likes from the bakery. More silence. Okay, well, it's here if you want it. He sat in the chair across from them, trying to figure out the right move. Let them work it out? Force them to talk? Send Lucy home early and deal with the fallout? Finally, Lucy spoke. At home, my mom makes me share. I was sharing, Ivy said. No, you weren't. You were hogging. I was not hogging. You literally wouldn't give me the controller. Because you don't know how to play yet. You just die immediately and then get frustrated. So, that's how you learn. Ivy turned to face her. Fine. You want to play? Here. She shoved the controller at Lucy. Play. Lucy took it, fumbled with the buttons, and immediately crashed her character into a wall. The game made a sad sound. She tried again, died within seconds. See? Ivy said triumphantly. You're not ready. Lucy threw the controller on the couch. Because you didn't teach me anything. You just wanted to show off. I wasn't showing off. You were. You wanted me to think you're so good at this stupid game. It's not stupid. It is when you're the only one having fun. Adrian cleared his throat. Can we maybe... Dad, seriously, stay out of it. He sat back, stung. Ivy had never talked to him like that. But Lucy was nodding in agreement, and he realized this was something they needed to figure out between themselves. So he stayed quiet and watched. You know what? Lucy said after a moment. You're just like the girls at my school who have everything and act like they're better than everyone else. Ivy's face went pale. That's not fair, isn't it? You have this huge apartment and all these games, and you can't even share for 5 minutes. That's not... I share. I let you borrow my books. Books aren't the same as actually playing with me. Well, maybe if you weren't so sensitive about everything. I'm not sensitive. You're just mean. The word hung in the air. Mean. Ivy looked like she'd been slapped. I'm not mean, she said quietly. You're being mean right now. I'm not. I just wanted to play my game. Without me. That's not what I meant. But that's what you did. Ivy's eyes filled with tears. She stood up abruptly. Fine. I'm mean. Whatever. You can have the stupid game. I don't care anymore. She ran to her room and slammed the door. The apartment went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. Lucy sat on the couch looking miserable. Adrian didn't know what to do. Comfort her? Go after Ivy? Pretend this was all fine? I shouldn't have called her mean, Lucy said quietly. Probably not. But she was being unfair. Maybe. But you both were. Lucy pulled her knees to her chest. Is she going to hate me now? No. She's going to be upset for a while and then you'll figure it out. How do you know? Because that's what siblings do. I've never had a sibling before. I don't know how this works. Neither does Ivy. You're both learning. Lucy wiped her eyes. This is harder than I thought it would be. Yeah, Adrian agreed. It really is. He gave them both some space. Ivy stayed in her room. Lucy sat on the couch staring at the paused game. After 30 minutes, Adrian knocked on Ivy's door. Go away. Can I come in? No. I'm coming in anyway. He opened the door. Ivy was face down on her bed, pillow over her head. He sat on the edge of the mattress. She called me mean. She was upset. But she meant it. She thinks I'm like those spoiled kids who have everything. Are you? Ivy pulled the pillow off and glared at him. That's not helpful, Dad. I'm being serious. Do you think you were being fair? I was just playing my game. For half an hour while your sister sat there waiting. I was showing her how it worked. Were you? Or were you doing what you wanted and expecting her to go along with it? Ivy's face crumpled. I don't know. Maybe. I wanted to show her something I'm good at. Something cool. And she didn't even care. She cared. She just wanted to be included. But I don't know how to do that. I've never had to share before. Not really. With Mia, we just take turns automatically, but with Lucy, it's different, and I don't know why. Adrian pulled her into a hug. She was crying now, frustrated tears that came from trying and failing at something she didn't understand. It's different because she's your sister, he said gently. The stakes are higher. You care what she thinks of you. I don't want her to think I'm mean. Then tell her that. What if she doesn't believe me? Then you keep showing her until she does. Ivy pulled back, wiping her face. This is really hard, Dad. I know. Is it always going to be this hard? Probably not, but sometimes, yeah, that's family. She took a shaky breath. Okay, I'll go talk to her. Good. They walked back to the living room together. Lucy was still on the couch, looking small and uncomfortable. When she saw Ivy, she sat up straighter. I'm sorry I called you mean, Lucy said before Ivy could speak. I'm sorry I hogged the game. And I'm sorry I said it was stupid. It's not. I was just mad. I get it. They looked at each other awkwardly. Adrian resisted the urge to fix it for them. Do you want to try again? Ivy asked. The game, I mean. I can actually teach you this time. Okay, but if I die a lot, you can't make fun of me. Deal. And if I start hogging again, tell me. I will. Lucy picked up the controller. Ivy sat next to her, close enough that their shoulders touched, and started explaining the buttons slowly. Lucy listened, asked questions, tried again. She still died a lot, but Ivy stayed patient, offering tips without taking over. Adrian went back to the kitchen and reheated the sandwiches. When he brought them out, both girls grabbed one without looking away from the screen. This is good bread, Lucy said between bites. Told you. They played for another hour. Lucy got marginally better. Ivy cheered when she completed her first level. They argued twice more, small disagreements that they resolved without Adrian's intervention. When it was time to take Lucy home, she hugged Ivy at the door. Thanks for teaching me. Thanks for being patient with me. Even when you were being annoying, I wasn't that annoying. You kind of were. Okay, maybe a little. They grinned at each other, and Adrian felt something ease in his chest. Not perfect, not smooth, but real. He drove Lucy back to Queens. She was quiet, staring out the window like always. You okay? He asked. Yeah, just tired. It's okay to fight, you know. Siblings fight. I know. I just didn't like it. Nobody does. Ivy cried. She did. I made her cry. You both made each other upset. That's different. Lucy thought about it. I guess. It's just weird because I wanted a sister for so long, and now that I have one, sometimes she makes me really mad. That's normal. Is it? Completely. She seemed reassured by this. When they got to her building, Mara was waiting outside again. How was it? She asked. We fought, Lucy said matter-of-factly. Mara's eyebrows went up. About what? A video game, but then we made up. And Ivy taught me how to play. I'm still bad at it, but I'm getting better. That's good, baby. Can we get that game at home? Probably not. Those things are expensive. Oh. Lucy's face fell. Okay. Adrian watched the disappointment settle over her, the moment she remembered that her life and Ivy's weren't the same. Before he could think better of it, he spoke. I could get you one. For here. So you have the same game to practice with. Lucy's eyes lit up. Really? Mara's expression went hard. Adrian, can I talk to you for a second? Mom, he just said, inside, Lucy, now. Lucy's face fell again. She went into the building without arguing. Mara turned on Adrian. You can't do that. Do what? Undermine me in front of her. I said no, and you immediately offered to buy it anyway. I wasn't trying to undermine you. I just thought, I don't care what you thought. When I make a decision about my daughter, you don't get to overrule it by throwing money at the problem. That's not what I was doing. Then what were you doing? Adrian took a breath. I was trying to make things easier for her, so she doesn't feel left out when she's at my place. She's not left out. She's learning to share. That's different. But why should she have to feel like she's missing something just because that's life, Adrian? Not everyone gets everything they want the second they want it, and I'm not going to raise a daughter who expects handouts every time something's hard. It's a video game console, Mara, not a handout. To you, maybe. To her, it's you buying her affection. That's not fair, isn't it? You already have the fancy apartment and the doorman and the rooftop terrace. Now, you want to be the fun parent who buys her whatever she wants, while I'm the mean one who says no? I never said you were mean. You don't have to say it. She'll figure it out on her own when she realizes your house has everything and ours doesn't. Adrian felt his own frustration building. So what am I supposed to do? Pretend I don't have resources? Make her life harder just to prove I'm not spoiling her? I'm asking you to respect my decisions, to talk to me before making offers you know I can't match. Fine, I'm sorry. I should have asked first. Yes, you should have. They stood in the cold, breath fogging between them. Adrian shoved his hands in his pockets. This would be easier if we were on the same page, he said. We're not even reading the same book. Then maybe we need to try. Mara's shoulders sagged. I don't know how. Every time I think we're making progress, something like this happens. So we keep trying, we mess up, we apologize, we do better next time. And if there's no better next time, then we keep trying anyway. She looked at him for a long moment. You really believe that? I have to. The alternative is giving up, and I'm not doing that. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard. Mara's expression softened slightly. Okay, but next time you want to buy Lucy something expensive, ask me first. Deal. And for the record, she doesn't need the game console. Understood. But if you wanted to buy her more books, I wouldn't object. Adrian almost smiled. Noted. She went inside. He sat in his car for a few minutes, replaying the conversation, trying to figure out where he'd gone wrong and how to avoid it next time. His phone buzzed. A text from Mara. I'm sorry I snapped. This is just hard. He replied, I know. I'm sorry too. We're going to screw this up a lot, aren't we? Probably. But we'll figure it out. I hope so. The next day, Adrian took Ivy to the bookstore. She was confused by the sudden trip, but didn't argue. Can we get books for Lucy? She asked. That's exactly why we're here. Really? Really? They spent an hour in the children's section. Ivy picked out 3 books she thought Lucy would like, then added 2 more because she needs options. Adrian bought all 5 plus 2 that the bookstore employee recommended. Can we give them to her next time she comes over? Ivy asked. I was thinking we could drop them off, if that's okay with you. Like go to her house? Yeah. Ivy considered this. I've never seen where she lives. Would you want to? Yeah, I think so. They drove to Queens that afternoon. Adrian texted Mara first. We're in the neighborhood. Ivy picked out some books for Lucy. Can we drop them off? The response took a few minutes. Give me 20 minutes to clean up. This place is a disaster. We don't care about that. I do. 20 minutes. They waited in the car, Ivy examining each book and rearranging them by size. When Mara finally texted the okay, they went up. Lucy answered the door, eyes going wide when she saw the stack of books. Are those for me? Ivy picked them out, Adrian said. Ivy held them out. I wasn't sure what you already had, so I got a bunch of different ones. Lucy took them carefully, like they were made of glass. This is so many books. Is it too many? No, I love books. Mara appeared behind her. That's really generous, thank you. Can I show Ivy my room? Lucy asked. Mara hesitated, and Adrian saw her cataloging everything Lucy would be embarrassed about. The small space, the second-hand furniture, the toys that had been played with by someone else first. Of course, she said. The girls disappeared. Adrian stood awkwardly in the doorway until Mara stepped aside. You can come in. Thanks. The apartment looked lived in. Not messy, just occupied. Dishes in the sink, a basket of laundry on the chair, Lucy's homework spread across the kitchen table. Real life, not the staged version. Sorry about the mess, Mara said. It's not messy. It's nice. You're being polite. I'm being honest. My place is like a museum. This actually feels like a home. She looked at him skeptically, but didn't argue. From Lucy's room, they heard excited chatter about the books. This was really kind, Mara said. The books. Ivy wanted to. After yesterday, I think she was trying to make up for the fighting. Lucy felt bad about it, too. She kept saying she shouldn't have called Ivy mean. Ivy cried about that for a while. Really? Really? She cares what Lucy thinks of her. Mara smiled slightly. Lucy's the same way. She wants Ivy to like her so badly it makes her anxious. They're doing okay, though, right?
Yeah, I think so. Better than I expected, honestly. The girls emerged, Lucy clutching one of the books. Mom, can Ivy stay for dinner? Both adults froze. Adrian looked at Mara, who looked back at him with an expression that clearly said this wasn't planned. We don't want to intrude, Adrian started. It's not intruding, Lucy insisted. We're making spaghetti. There's enough. I don't know if please, Mom. Mara looked trapped. Adrian tried to help. We actually have plans.
No, we don't, Ivy said. Mrs. Chen isn't coming tonight. We could order something. But Lucy said spaghetti, Ivy pointed out. The girls looked at them with matching expressions of hope. Adrian and Mara exchanged a glance. If it's really okay, Adrian said carefully. It's fine, Mara said, though she looked like she was agreeing to something much bigger than dinner. But you're helping cook. Deal. The kitchen was tiny, barely enough room for one person, definitely not designed for 3 adults and 2 children. But they made it work. Mara boiled water while Adrian chopped vegetables under her direction. The girls set the table, arguing about whether the forks went on the left or the right. Left, Lucy said. Are you sure? That's where my mom puts them. Dad puts them on the right. Well, this is my house, so left. Okay. The sauce was simple, from a jar, nothing fancy. Mara apologized for it twice. I didn't have time to make it from scratch. This is perfect, Adrian said. You're just saying that. I'm really not. I can't remember the last time I had homemade spaghetti. It's not homemade if the sauce is from a jar. Close enough. They ate at the small table, crowded and chaotic. The girls talked over each other. Mara told a story about a patient at the hospital that made everyone laugh. Adrian found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't expected. The informality of it all somehow easier than the careful distance they'd been maintaining. This is nice, Ivy said. What is? Adrian asked. All of us together. Like a real family. The words hung in the air. Adrian saw Mara tense, saw Lucy look between them uncertainly. We are a real family, Lucy said quietly. Aren't we? Of course you are, Mara said quickly. But a different kind than most families, Adrian added. Different doesn't mean not real, Ivy insisted. No, he agreed. It doesn't. They finished dinner. Adrian helped with dishes while Mara put away leftovers. The girls went back to Lucy's room to read. Thank you, Mara said quietly, for staying. Thank you for having us. I mean it. This was good. Weird, but good. Yeah, it was. She handed him a plate to dry. They worked in silence for a moment. We're getting better at this, she said. Slowly. You think so? We had dinner together without a major incident. That's progress. Fair point. And you didn't try to buy Lucy anything expensive. I learned my lesson. Good. When the dishes were done, Adrian called for Ivy. She emerged with Lucy, both girls looking disappointed. Do we have to go? It's almost your bedtime. Can Lucy come over next weekend? Adrian looked at Mara, who nodded. Sure. Both days? Let's start with one and see how it goes. Okay, Saturday? Saturday works. They said their goodbyes. Lucy hugged Ivy at the door, then hesitated before hugging Adrian too. It was quick, uncertain, but it happened. In the car, Ivy was quiet. You okay? Adrian asked. Yeah, I was just thinking. About what? About how Lucy's house is smaller than ours, but it feels bigger somehow. What do you mean? I don't know, just fuller, I guess. Like there's more life in it. Adrian thought about his pristine penthouse, everything in its place, designed for minimalism and control. Yeah, I know what you mean. Is that bad? What? That our house doesn't feel full like that? No, it's just different. Everything's different with Lucy. Is that good or bad? Ivy thought about it. Good, I think. Most of the time. Most of the time is pretty good. Yeah, it is. That night, after Ivy was in bed, Adrian sat on his balcony despite the cold. His phone buzzed with a text from Mara. Lucy said tonight was the best night she's had in a long time. Ivy said the same thing. We should probably do it again sometime. Definitely. But maybe warn me first so I can actually cook something. The spaghetti was perfect. You're still just being polite. I'm really not.
A pause, then, thank you for helping with dishes, and for the books, and for being patient with all of this. Thank you for letting us in. We're figuring it out, right? Adrian looked out at the city, lights stretching to the horizon. Somewhere out there, in a small apartment in Queens, Lucy was probably reading one of the books Ivy had picked out. Two girls, connected by blood and circumstance, building something neither of them fully understood yet.
Yeah, he typed back. We're figuring it out. And for the first time since that email had arrived back in October, he actually believed it. Winter came hard that year. By mid-December, the city was buried under snow that turned gray within hours, and the cold settled into bones and stayed there. Adrian found himself navigating a new kind of chaos. Not the boardroom kind he'd mastered years ago, but the messy, unpredictable kind that came with coordinating schedules between two households, two daughters, and one woman who still looked at him sometimes like he was a problem waiting to happen. The custody arrangement, if you could call it that, was informal. No lawyers, no signed documents, just text messages and calendar invites and a shared understanding that they were making this up as they went along. Lucy came over every Saturday, sometimes Sunday too, occasionally during the week for dinner. Ivy went to Queens less often. Mara's apartment was small, and Adrian could see the strain it put on her to host, but often enough that she knew which bodega sold the good candy and which subway line got them there fastest. It wasn't smooth. Nothing about it was smooth. 3 days before Christmas, Mara called him at work. She never called during business hours. We need to talk about the holidays, she said without preamble. Adrian put his meeting on mute. Okay. My mom wants to meet Lucy. She's flying in from Florida on the 23rd. That's good, right? Except she doesn't know about you yet. Adrian felt something cold settle in his stomach. You haven't told your mother?
I was waiting for the right time. It's been 2 months, Mara. I know how long it's been. Her voice was tight.
But my mom has opinions, strong ones, about everything, and I wasn't ready to deal with them. And now? Now she's coming whether I'm ready or not. And if Lucy mentions having a dad and a sister, my mother's going to lose her mind. Adrian rubbed his face. So what do you want me to do? I don't know. Maybe not have Lucy that weekend, just to avoid complications? You want me to lie to my daughter about why she can't see her sister for Christmas? I'm not asking you to lie. I'm asking you to give me some space to handle my family. By pretending we don't exist? That's not what I said. That's what it sounds like. Silence. Adrian heard her breathing, heard the sound of traffic in the background. She was outside, probably on her break, having this conversation between patients.
Look, she said finally, I know this isn't fair, but my mother is going to judge me. For getting pregnant, for not telling you sooner, for letting Lucy grow up without a father, all of it. And I'm not ready for that judgment while trying to give Lucy a nice Christmas. Adrian understood. He did, but understanding didn't make it easier to swallow. What does Lucy want? He asked. She wants everything. She wants her grandmother and her sister and her dad all together, having Christmas dinner like some Norman Rockwell painting, which is impossible. Why is it impossible? Are you serious? Yes. Because my mother doesn't know you exist, because your family doesn't know about Lucy, because we can barely get through a dinner without arguing, and because... She stopped. Because what? Because I'm scared, okay? I'm scared that if everyone meets, if this becomes official and public and real, then I can't take it back. And what if it all falls apart? What if you decide this is too hard and you walk away? What if Lucy gets her heart broken? I'm not going anywhere. You say that now. I've been saying it for 2 months. What do I have to do to make you believe it? More silence. Someone in the background called Mara's name. Her break was ending. I have to go, she said. Can we talk about this later? When? I don't know. Soon. She hung up. Adrian sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen without seeing it. His assistant knocked, reminded him about his 2 o'clock. He waved her off. That night he told Ivy about the situation. She listened, fork suspended halfway to her mouth. So Lucy's not coming over for Christmas? I don't know yet. Because her grandma doesn't know about us? Basically. Ivy set down her fork. That's stupid. Ivy,
It is. We're her family too. Why does her grandma get to decide? It's complicated. Everything with Lucy is complicated, but that doesn't mean we should hide. She was right. Adrian knew she was right, but knowing didn't solve the problem. 2 days later, Mara texted, "Can you come over tonight? After the girls are asleep. We need to talk." He got Mrs. Chen to stay late and drove to Queens. Mara answered the door in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, hair pulled back, looking exhausted. "Lucy's asleep," she said. "Finally. She's too excited about Christmas to settle down." Ivy, too. They sat at the kitchen table with coffee neither of them wanted. The apartment was decorated now, a small tree in the corner, lights strung across the window, construction paper snowflakes Lucy had made taped to the walls. It looked cheerful and sad at the same time, like someone trying very hard to create magic in a space too small to contain it. "I told my mom," Mara said. "When?" "This afternoon, on the phone." "How'd she take it?" Mara laughed, bitter and sharp. "About as well as I expected. She cried, then she yelled, then she cried some more. She thinks I ruined my life." "Did she say that?" "She didn't have to. I could hear it in every word." Mara wrapped her hands around her mug. "She wants to meet you." "Okay." "And Ivy." "Okay." "And she has a lot of opinions about how this should have been handled differently." "I'm sure she does." Mara looked at him. "You're not nervous?" "Terrified, actually, but it has to happen eventually." "Why are you being so reasonable about this?" "Because one of us has to be." She smiled despite herself. "Fair." They sat in silence for a moment. The radiator clanked. Outside, someone was yelling about parking. "My parents want to meet Lucy, too," Adrian said. "They've been asking since I told them. My mother's been shopping for Christmas presents for a granddaughter she's never met." "That's sweet. It's a lot of pressure." "Everything about this is a lot of pressure." "Yeah." Mara took a breath. "What if we did it together?" "Did what together?" "Christmas. All of us. Your parents, my mom, the girls, you and me. One big, terrifying, probably disastrous dinner." Adrian stared at her. "Are you serious?" "I don't know, maybe. I keep trying to split everything up, keep everyone separate so nothing goes wrong. But Lucy keeps asking why her family can't be together, and I don't have a good answer." "That's a terrible idea." "I know. It's going to be awkward and uncomfortable, and someone's definitely going to say something they shouldn't." "Absolutely. So why do it?" Mara looked toward Lucy's room, where soft breathing indicated sleep and innocence and a child who just wanted everyone she loved in the same place. "Because she deserves to have us try," Mara said quietly. "Even if we fail spectacularly, at least we tried." Adrian thought about it, about his mother, who cried at greeting cards and would definitely cry meeting Lucy, about his father, who asked too many questions and had no filter, about Mara's mother, who he'd never met but could already tell had opinions that would clash with his mother's opinions in spectacular fashion. "Okay," he said. "Okay? Let's do it. Christmas dinner. Everyone." "You're insane." "Probably, but you're the one who suggested it." I immediately regretted it. "Too late." "I'm in." Mara laughed, and it sounded almost hysterical. "This is going to be a disaster." "Definitely. But maybe a good disaster. Let's hope." Planning. Christmas dinner for 8 people from completely different worlds turned out to be exactly as complicated as Adrian expected. His mother wanted to host at their place in Connecticut. Mara's mother insisted they do it at Mara's apartment because that's where Lucy lives. Adrian suggested his penthouse as neutral ground. Everyone hated that idea. They settled on Adrian's place after Ivy made an impassioned speech about how it had the most room for people to escape if they needed space. "That's the selling point?" Mara asked. "Escape routes?" "She's not wrong," Adrian said. The girls were excited, oblivious to the adults' anxiety. Lucy made place cards for everyone, decorating each one with drawings of what she thought people liked. Adrian's had a building on it. Mara's had a stethoscope. Ivy's had books. She'd never met the grandparents, but gave Adrian's mother flowers and his father a newspaper. Mara's mother got a palm tree and a sun. "Florida," Lucy explained proudly. "Very accurate," Mara said, though her smile was strained. Adrian's parents arrived first on Christmas Eve. His mother took one look at Lucy and started crying immediately. "Oh my," she said, hands pressed to her mouth. "Oh, she looks just like Ivy did at that age." "Mom, you're scaring her," Adrian said. But Lucy didn't look scared. She walked right up to Adrian's mother and held out her hand formally. "Hi, I'm Lucy. You're my grandma?" That made his mother cry harder. She pulled Lucy into a hug that was probably too tight. Adrian's father stood back, watching with the careful assessment he brought to everything. "You're the spitting image of your dad when he was young," he told Lucy. "People say I look like Ivy." "You look like both of them. That's how genetics works." Lucy considered this. "Are you a scientist?" "I'm a retired lawyer, but I read a lot." "I like reading too." "Then we'll get along fine." Mara's mother arrived an hour later. She was younger than Adrian expected, early 60s maybe, with Mara's eyes and a mouth set in a permanent line of judgment. She looked around the penthouse with an expression that clearly said everything she was thinking. "This is where you live?" she asked Adrian. "Yes, ma'am." "Must be nice." "Mom," Mara said, warning in her voice, "I'm just saying, it's very nice." Lucy ran over. "Grandma, you came!" Mara's mother's face transformed. She crouched down and pulled Lucy close, and for a moment all the judgment disappeared, replaced by pure love. "Of course I came, baby. I wouldn't miss this." "Do you want to see my place card? I made one for you." "I'd love to see it." The introductions were stilted. Adrian's mother tried too hard to be welcoming. Mara's mother was polite in a way that felt like criticism. His father asked questions that were probably too personal. Mara looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Dinner was ambitious. Turkey, stuffing, 3 kinds of potatoes because everyone had different preferences, vegetables nobody would eat, and 2 pies. Adrian's mother had insisted on bringing half of it. Mara had made the other half in her tiny kitchen and brought it over in containers. They'd argued about it via text for 2 days. Getting everyone seated took 15 minutes. Lucy had made a seating chart that put herself between Ivy and Mara's mother, Ivy between Lucy and Adrian's mother, and the adults scattered around trying to manage conversation. It worked better than it should have. "So," Adrian's father said once everyone had food, "this is unusual." "Dad, I'm not saying it's bad, just unusual. When Adrian told us he had another daughter, I'll admit I was skeptical." "Skeptical of what?" Mara's mother asked, immediately defensive. "Of the circumstances. It seemed convenient." "Convenient?" Mara's voice went cold. "What exactly seems convenient about raising a child alone for 6 years?" "I didn't mean—" "I think you did." "Mom, please," Mara said quietly. "No, let him explain what he meant by convenient." Adrian's father set down his fork. "I meant that I wanted to make sure this wasn't some scheme, that my son wasn't being taken advantage of." "Taken advantage of? Lady, I've been taking care of my granddaughter without a penny from anyone. No one's questioning that. It sure sounds like you are." The table went silent. Ivy and Lucy looked between the adults with wide eyes. Adrian's mother was frozen mid-reach for the potatoes. Mara had her head in her hands. Adrian stood up. "Okay, everyone stop." "Adrian," his father started. "No? Listen, I know this is weird. I know none of us planned this, but we're here now and we're trying to figure it out. And what Lucy and Ivy need is not for us to fight about the past. They need us to be adults about the present." "He's right," Mara's mother said, surprising everyone. She looked at Adrian's father. "I apologize. That was rude of me." "I apologize too. I shouldn't have implied anything about your daughter's character." They looked at each other across the table, a truce forming in real time. Lucy raised her hand like she was in school. "Can we eat now? Everything's getting cold." The tension broke. Someone laughed. Plates were passed. Conversation restarted, carefully at first, then more naturally. Adrian's mother asked about Mara's work at the hospital. Mara's mother told stories about Lucy as a baby. The girls interrupted constantly, adding details and commentary. After dinner, while the adults cleaned up, Ivy and Lucy performed a play they'd apparently been rehearsing for weeks. It involved a lot of blankets, some questionable dialogue about princesses and dragons, and a finale where they both died dramatically on the living room floor. "Bravo," Adrian's father said, actually clapping. "Do you have any constructive criticism?" Lucy asked, popping up. "The death scene could use work. You fell too fast." That's what I said, Ivy exclaimed. They ran off to practice dying more slowly. The adults stood in the kitchen, watching through the doorway. They're good together, Adrian's mother said. They are, Mara agreed. Different as night and day, but good together. Like their parents, Mara's mother observed, looking pointedly between Mara and Adrian. We're not, Mara started. I didn't say you were. I said you're different, but you're making it work. Mara looked at Adrian. He looked back. Something passed between them, acknowledgement maybe, or just mutual exhaustion. We're trying, Mara said finally. That's all you can do. Later, after everyone had left except Mara and Lucy, after Ivy had fallen asleep on the couch mid-movie and Lucy had curled up beside her, Adrian and Mara stood on the balcony looking at the city. That went better than I expected, Mara said. Your mom only threatened to kill my dad once. I'd call that a win. She didn't threaten him. She absolutely did, with her eyes. Mara laughed, breath fogging in the cold air. Okay, maybe a little. They stood in comfortable silence. The city was quiet, or as quiet as it ever got. Christmas lights twinkled from other buildings. Thank you, Mara said, for hosting, for putting up with my mother, for all of it. Thank you for agreeing to this chaos. Lucy's happy. That's what matters. Ivy, too. They're good kids. Yeah, they are. More silence. Adrian wanted to say something meaningful, something that would capture the strangeness and unexpected rightness of the day. But words felt inadequate. We should probably get them to actual beds, Mara said finally. Probably. Neither of them moved. Mara? Yeah? I meant what I said, about not going anywhere. She looked at him. I know. I'm starting to believe it. Good. But if you do leave, I won't. But if you do, I'll hunt you down. Noted. They went inside. Adrian carried Ivy to her room. Mara carried Lucy to the guest room that was slowly becoming Lucy's room, filled with books and clothes and evidence of a child who belonged there. When Mara came back out, she paused at the door. Same time next week? She asked. For what? Lucy's birthday. She wants both families there again. Adrian groaned. You're kidding. Completely serious. She made a list of who to invite. How many people? 12? Mara. I know. But she's turning 7. It's important. Fine. But this time your mom and my dad sit at opposite ends of the table. Deal. She left. Adrian cleaned up the remaining dishes, put away food, found Lucy's drawing of the palm tree stuck to the refrigerator with a magnet. He smoothed it out, studying the crayon sun and the stick figure labeled Grandma. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. That was lovely. Lucy is wonderful. When can we see them again? Then one from Mara. Lucy's already planning the birthday party. Send help. Then one from Ivy's phone, which meant Ivy had woken up and stolen it. Best Christmas ever, Dad. Adrian sat on the couch, surrounded by evidence of the day, wrapping paper, pie crumbs, place cards with Lucy's careful drawings. The apartment that had always felt too big suddenly felt exactly right. The winter months passed in a blur of birthday parties and school projects and arguments about screen time and vegetables. Lucy started calling Adrian Dad in March, casually, like she'd been doing it her whole life. The first time she froze, looked at him nervously. Is that okay? She asked. Yeah, he said, voice rough. That's okay. Ivy and Lucy fought constantly and then made up just as quickly. They developed their own language, their own jokes, their own way of existing in the world as sisters. Sometimes they stayed at Adrian's place, sometimes at Mara's. Sometimes all of them ended up together, eating takeout at midnight because someone forgot to plan dinner. Adrian and Mara learned to communicate without fighting, mostly. They still disagreed about money, about schools, about parenting philosophies. But they learned to argue quietly, away from the girls, and to apologize when they were wrong, which was often, for both of them. In April, Mara's apartment flooded. A pipe burst, ruined half her furniture, made the place unlivable for 2 weeks. She showed up at Adrian's door at 11 p.m. with Lucy and 3 bags of clothes. I didn't know where else to go, she said. You're always welcome here. She looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted. Thank you, she said quietly. It's just a place to stay. No, thank you for everything, for showing up, for not giving up, for being better than I expected.
That's a low bar. Maybe, but you cleared it anyway.
Those 2 weeks changed something. Not dramatically, not with some big revelation or moment, just slowly, in the everyday chaos of shared space and shared meals and shared responsibility. Adrian came home from work to find Mara teaching both girls to cook. Mara woke up to find Adrian helping Lucy with her homework. They fell into a rhythm neither of them had planned. When her apartment was fixed, Mara packed slowly. "We should probably get out of your hair," she said. "You're not in my hair. We've been here 2 weeks. So? So you probably want your space back." Adrian looked around the penthouse, at Lucy's drawings on the refrigerator, at Mara's nursing textbooks on the coffee table because she'd decided to go back to school, at Ivy's and Lucy's shoes tangled together by the door. "It doesn't feel crowded," he said. "It feels full." Mara stared at him. "Are you saying that?" "I'm saying there's room here. If you wanted it, no pressure, just room." "Adrian, that's
Crazy. I know. Forget I said anything. No, I was going to say that's really generous, but also terrifying." "Why terrifying?" "Because what if it doesn't work? What if we drive each other crazy?" "We already drive each other crazy, but we're managing. Living together is different." "I know." "The girls would have expectations. We'd have to explain what this means. We'd figure it out, like we figured out everything else."
Mara sat down on the couch, looked at her hands. "I wasn't expecting this." "Neither was I. But here we are." "Here we are," she echoed. Lucy ran in from the other room. "Mom, Ivy wants to know if we're staying or going, because if we're staying, she wants to build a fort, and if we're going, she wants to help pack." Mara looked at Adrian. He looked back. No answers, just questions and possibilities, and the terrifying prospect of choosing something instead of just reacting. "What do you think, Lucy?" Mara asked. "Would you want to stay here? Live here with Ivy and Adrian?" Lucy's eyes went huge. "Like, forever? Like, we'd try it and see how it goes. Would we have our own room? I don't know. We'd have to figure it out." Lucy looked at Adrian. "Is that okay with you?" "More than okay." "And Ivy's okay with it?" "She'd probably throw a party if you said yes." Lucy thought about it for approximately 3 seconds. "Okay, let's stay." "Just like that?" Mara said. "Why not? We're already here, and I like it here, and Ivy's here, and Dad's here." She said it so naturally, like those words didn't mean everything. "It makes sense," Mara laughed, slightly hysterical. "Out of the mouths of babes." "Is that a yes?" Adrian asked. "I guess it is. But we're splitting rent." "There's no rent." "I own it." "Then we're splitting expenses." Mara, "Non-negotiable. We do this as partners or we don't do it at all." "Partners." The words settled between them, heavy with implication. "Okay," Adrian said. "Partners." They told Ivy, who screamed and hugged Lucy so hard they both fell over. They told the grandparents, who had various reactions ranging from Adrian's mother's tears to his father's practical questions about logistics to Mara's mother's suspicion that was slowly turning into acceptance. Moving Mara in was easy because she didn't have much. Moving their lives together was harder. They had to learn how to share space, how to negotiate bedtime routines, how to handle mornings when everyone needed the bathroom at once. They argued about whether the girls should share a room or have separate ones, decided on separate but adjacent, argued about chores and allowances and whether 7-year-olds needed smartphones. But they also laughed more. Ate dinner together every night when Mara wasn't working late. Watched the girls become more than sisters, best friends, constant companions, each other's favorite people. Adrian watched Mara slowly stop waiting for the other shoe to drop, watched her relax into the space, into the life they were building. She still had bad days, still sometimes looked around like she was waiting for someone to tell her it was all a mistake. But those days got fewer, and Adrian learned something he hadn't expected. Control wasn't about having all the answers. It was about trusting the process, trusting the people you were with, trusting that good intentions and genuine effort could create something worthwhile, even when the blueprint was unclear. Summer came. They took the girls to the beach, all 4 of them, plus both sets of grandparents in a rental house that was chaotic and loud, and exactly what it should have been. Ivy taught Lucy to body surf. Lucy taught Ivy to look for shells. The adults sat in beach chairs and watched them run in and out of the waves.
You look happy, Mara said to Adrian one evening, while the girls built sandcastles and the grandparents napped inside. I am happy. Even with all the chaos? Because of the chaos. Turns out I was terrible at controlling everything anyway. You were pretty good at it, actually. That was the problem. What do you mean? She looked at him over her sunglasses. You can't control people into loving you, Adrian, or into staying. You just have to trust that they will. And if they don't, then you survive it, and you try again with someone else. Is that what you're doing? Trying again? Maybe. Are you? He thought about it. About Vanessa, who'd left because they'd been trying to control their way into happiness. About his years alone with Ivy, controlling every variable he could to keep her safe. About meeting Mara and Lucy, and having everything spiral beautifully out of control. Yeah, he said, I think I am. She smiled, then looked back at the girls. They're going to need therapy someday, you know. All kids do, but especially ones with family situations like ours. Probably. But they'll be okay. How do you know? Because they're loved, messily, imperfectly, but genuinely loved, and that covers a multitude of mistakes. That night, after the girls were asleep in their shared room at the beach house, Mara and Adrian sat on the deck watching the ocean. I've been thinking, Mara said. About? About what this is. Us. This situation. Adrian's chest tightened. Okay. We're partners. Co-parents. Friends, I think. I'd say so. But is that all we are? The question hung in the air between them. Adrian hadn't let himself think about it, hadn't wanted to complicate things further. But sitting there in the dark with the ocean noise and the knowledge that their daughters were safe inside, he couldn't avoid it. I don't know, he said honestly. What do you want us to be? I don't know either, but sometimes I think about how easy this has gotten, how much I look forward to coming home. And it's not just because of Lucy. No, it's because of you too. Because somewhere along the way, you became someone I trust, someone I actually like spending time with. Even when we're arguing about Lucy's bedtime? Especially then. She laughed quietly. You care. About everything. Sometimes it's annoying, but mostly it's nice. To have someone who cares as much as I do. Adrian reached over and took her hand. She let him. I don't want to rush anything, he said, or mess this up. Same, but I like spending time with you too. More than I expected to. That's romantic, she said, but she was smiling. I'm out of practice. Me too. They sat like that, hands linked, watching the waves. Not lovers, not yet. But not just co-parents either. Something in between, something evolving, something that didn't need to be defined immediately. The year turned. Fall came again, bringing the anniversary of that first Halloween when everything started. Lucy was 7 now, Ivy 8. They'd been sisters for almost a year, though it felt like longer. On October 31st, they all went trick-or-treating together. Adrian, Mara, both girls, and a pumpkin bucket full of complicated family dynamics that somehow worked. Lucy dressed as a witch again, though a much more elaborate version than the store-bought costume from last year. Ivy went as a scientist. Because scientists are cool, she explained. Cooler than witches? Lucy asked, mock offended. Different kind of cool. I'll accept that. They walked through the neighborhood as the sun set, the girls running ahead, Adrian and Mara following at a distance. Other families waved, made small talk. The doorman from Adrian's building was out with his grandkids and stopped to chat. Normal. It all felt startlingly normal. A year ago, I was sitting in that restaurant terrified you wouldn't show up, Mara said. A year ago, I was convinced this was some kind of scam. We've come a long way. Yeah, we have. Lucy and Ivy came trotting back, bags already half full. Can we stay out until 9? Ivy asked. 8:30, Adrian said. 8:45? Lucy tried. 8:30, Mara confirmed. The girls groaned but accepted it, running off to the next house. United front, Adrian said. We're getting better at that. Only took us a year. Mara bumped his shoulder with hers. Some things are worth the learning curve. They made it home by 9 despite the girls' protests. Hot chocolate for everyone, a mountain of candy to sort through, and a living room floor covered in wrappers and costumes and the cheerful debris of childhood. Best Halloween ever,
Lucy declared. You said that last year, Ivy pointed out. This one's better. How? Because we're all together, like a real family. Ivy looked at her sister, then at Adrian and Mara on the couch. We are a real family, dummy. I know. That's what I said. No, you said like a real family. We are one. Okay. We are one. Satisfied, Ivy returned to sorting her candy by type. Lucy helped, stealing pieces when she thought no one was looking. Adrian watched them, watched Mara watching them, and felt something settle in his chest. Not the controlled certainty he'd spent his whole life chasing, but something better. Something earned through mistakes and apologies, and showing up even when it was hard. Later, after the girls were in bed and the candy was hidden on a high shelf, Adrian and Mara cleaned up the living room in comfortable silence. Thank you, Mara said. For what? For being here. For staying. For being the kind of father Lucy deserves. Thank you for finding me, for being brave enough to send that email. I was terrified. Me too. Still terrified sometimes. Same, but less than before. She smiled. Yeah, less than before. They finished cleaning, turned off the lights, stood in the hallway between the girls' rooms. Behind one door, Ivy's soft breathing. Behind the other, Lucy talking to herself, probably replaying the night's events. She does that, Mara whispered. Narrates before she falls asleep. Ivy used to do the same thing, probably still does when I'm not listening. They're more alike than different. Yeah. Mara looked at him in the dim hallway light. We did okay, didn't we? Better than okay. Better than we had any right to expect, given how this started. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the best things don't come from control and planning. Maybe they come from showing up and trying, even when you have no idea what you're doing. Is that your takeaway from all this? One of them. What are the others? Adrian thought about it. About the year that had passed, about everything that had changed and everything that hadn't. That family isn't about biology or proximity or perfect circumstances. It's about choosing each other over and over, even when it's hard. That love isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a decision you make and then live into. That sometimes the things we're most afraid of are exactly what we need. Mara's eyes were bright. That's actually pretty good. I've had time to think about it. Clearly, she moved closer, and for a moment Adrian thought she might kiss him. Instead, she hugged him, quick and tight. Thank you, she whispered again. For what? For being you, flawed and human and trying anyway. Same to you. She pulled back, smiled, and went to her room. Adrian stood in the hallway for another minute, listening to his daughters breathe, feeling the weight and wonder of this life. He hadn't planned but couldn't imagine giving up. He went to his own room, checked his phone out of habit. A text from his mother asking how trick-or-treating went. One from Marcus checking in about a deal closing next week. One from Mrs. Chen saying she'd left dinner for tomorrow in the fridge. And one from Ivy's phone. Dad, Lucy wants to know if we can have pancakes tomorrow. He smiled and typed back. Tell her yes. Regular or chocolate chip? Both duh. Both it is. Now go to sleep. Already did. Then how are you texting me? Magic. Good night, Ivy. Night, Dad, love you. Love you too. He set the phone down and lay in bed, listening to the sounds of his home. The radiator clicking, traffic outside. The faint sound of Lucy's voice still narrating her day. Mara moving around in her room, probably grading assignments from the nursing program. This messy, complicated, imperfect life. He wouldn't trade it for anything. Adrian Cole had spent 33 years believing that control was the answer, that if he just planned carefully enough, worked hard enough, anticipated every variable, he could build a life that made sense, a life that was safe and predictable and manageable. And then an email arrived from a stranger, and a little girl looked up at him with his own eyes, and he learned what he should have known all along. The best things in life are the ones you never see coming. The ones that break through your defenses and rearrange everything you thought you knew. The ones that force you to be braver and kinder and more human than you ever planned to be. Control was an illusion. Love was a choice. Family was whoever showed up and stayed. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, the thing that scared you most turned out to be exactly what you needed. Outside his window, the city glittered. Millions of lives, millions of stories, millions of people figuring it out as they went along. Adrian closed his eyes and let himself be one of them. Not perfect, not controlled, not certain, but present, trying, loved. That was enough. That was everything.